y'all doing, everyone? And for this one, we are going to go over the fall of Camelot. But you can't really go over through European mythology and folklore, particularly of England, and Great Britain, without this. And we've already covered many volumes of this with various stories of the Knights of the Round Table. Here's a book dedicated to the story of King Arthur and his knights themselves. So let's begin. Now, of course, we'll start with the interior artwork, which I admit is not the most impressive. Just the symbols of of kinghood, which is the crown. Okay, maybe not so much a shield, and a scepter. And of course, on the last page, let's see, is there anything? And of course, banners, symbols that show kinghood or knighthood or variations of it. So, now let's begin. And this one doesn't start with the beginning picture, except for the cauldron here. It begins with a prologue, and this may be a fast read because I may not have time to read the stories, and there are plenty of captions. So Arthur himself, and I have these little mini pictures here with captions. A headland fortress called Untitled was the birthplace of Arthur of Britain. Here, safe from assault, laired the Dukes of Cornwall. One of the pictures here. Oh, let's see. All magic slipped past the defense of Tyndall. Merlin the Enchanter carried away the infant Arthur and placed him in his hiding. We got an ancient sword embedded in a sacred stone gave proof that Arthur was High King of Britain. Many sought to extract the weapon, but only he succeeded. Many already know about the all the the classical deeds of Arthur and his knights, and this covers over them. And what's to tell about King Arthur, if not for his faithful friend and the great magician Merlin? Unfathomable was the mystery of Merlin. In his veins he ran fairy blood, yet he guarded a mortal king. From a high window gazed Guinevere, daughter of Leodegram of Camelot, a princess fit in truth to be a queen. Yet Arthur saw her there, and the image lingered long and fair in his memory. Next chapter we talk about Morgause. Let's see. Maybe you probably know her as Queen or Morgana. Let's see. Fierce and vigilant, double eagle, a form of a crest of Lot of Lothian and Orkney. Let's see, we got this picture. Fair indeed was Morgause, wife of Lot the rebel king. She came to Arthur to sue for truce in her husband's name. She offered herself for the High King's pleasure. Let's see. I could be wrong about Morgause being Morgana. Arthur took Morgause as his paramour, but she gave him little joy. When he was with her, his dreams were haunted by serpents and dark images of death. Well, maybe I'm right. This could be variations of her. Let's see. With a voice of prophecy, Merlin the Enchanter showed Arthur the meaning of his dreams. That Morgause was his sister. Yep, it's Morgana. That the May child she would bear him would one day bring him his death. Of course, King Arthur, famous for especially for his great magical sword. Caliburn the fairy sword was the weapon of King Arthur. The flaming blade was invincible. The scabbard had the power to heal the cruelest wounds. I got this. Male infants born in Britain on May Day were placed in a rudderless boat and cast upon the cruel sea. Thus Arthur thought to thwart the prophecy that the babe-born child would slay him. But one infant survived, and the child that Arthur feared. A very common story there found throughout mythology. Let's see. Near the Welsh border, Arthur met the force of Lot and his rebel allies. As in every battle he had fought before, the High King won the day. Wrought in gilded metal by Merlin, the 12 rebel rulers of Britain stood in effigy, bearing tapers that perpetually burned. The figure above them was Arthur, bearing his implacable sword. And of course, Arthur's Queen Guinevere. A true warrior was young Gawain of Orkney, knighted on King Arthur's wedding day. His name, the poets said, meant Hawk of Merry. Almost as elusive as the folk of Fairy, Guinevere bore the name to match her character. The word was Welsh for White Phantom. It's a wonderful picture here of Camelot with a jousting event on the bottom. Let's see. Let's see, get the position this without the glare. Over the hill by a river Camelot rose, strong walled, silvery tower. This was the chief fortress of Arthur, and the measure of his might. No human foe could breach its highest walls. Let's see. Merlin made magic for an amusement. A hare that climbed like a cat. The exercise was dangerous. It drew the eyes of fairy. I also found it was a weird picture seeing, as a kid. And of course, a little enchantment going on here. With days of feasting, with music and singing, with all the ceremony of the royal court, Arthur took Guinevere of Camelot to wife. A huntress of the other world broke in upon the festivity, pursuing an enchanted stag as white as snow. I just love all the classic artwork to use here. Queen Guinevere rode out on the first day of May to gather white hawthorn as a guard against the fairies. It proved an ill-judged mission. Forces of the other world awaited her. Melwas of the Summer Country, concealed by a cloak of invisibility, snatched Queen Guinevere and took her away to his own lands. His fortress was hidden from a human view, but Arthur had more than once bested an otherworldly enemy, and he would do so again. To show his skill in the ways of magic, Merlin built a castle in the air, a bagatelle for his fairy, Nianaine. Or Niniane. Can't remember to pronounce. Here. She asked for the secrets of Merlin's powers. When she had them, she danced spells to enchant the enchanter. And let's see. There's Merlin in the castle he built above the clouds. When he awoke from Nianane's spell, Merlin found himself a prisoner in the aerial palace he had fashioned. In the clouds, held by fairy magic, the enchanter lived, lost forever as to the king he had served. Morgan. Let's see, let's read about her. In a convent on the Enchanted Isle, Arthur's half-sister Morgan learned the arts of illusion, spirit summoning, and the shifting of shape. Consort of Urien of Gore, Morgan served with her husband at Arthur's court, but Morgan was no true wife, as Guinevere discovered. She seduced the queen's own cousin. The young man was sent from Camelot. Ever active, Morgan sought to murder Urien and free herself from the sake of a lover. It was her son, Yvain, who stayed her hand and saved his father's life. Wonderful picture of John Howe. I got a man on a boat here, out in the river. A crystal ship of fairy beckoned the High King to adventure. After he leaped aboard it, the vessel bore him down a winding river through a country he did not know and into a place of darkness. Let's see. The crystal ship carried Arthur into battle with Morgan's paramour, Accolon, who wielded Arthur's own mighty sword. The High King would have died then, but for the sword's fairy guardian. But she sent Caliburn flying from the false knight's hand. Alright. Arthur defeated Accolon, but Morgan captured the healing scabbard of the sword Caliburn. The king pursued her, yet the Enchanted eluded him. She cast the scabbard into the lake, then turned herself and her companions to stone. Guess to take away his healing, the healing powers it presented. After clemency for her deeds, Morgan sent a gift to Arthur. A cloak of wool as fine as silk, as warm as fur, but into that cloak was woven a spell that would destroy the wearer. See, gruesome image here. At Arthur's command, Morgan's messenger slipped a cloak around her shoulders and died, as the High King would have died in a blast of magic-made flame. And of course, King Arthur's best knight, Lancelot. Wise and Enchantment was a fairy named Lady of the Lake, who hid the French Prince Lancelot in his youth and shaped him into the finest warrior of the world. When he came of age, Lancelot, called Du Lake, journeyed from his other-world home to the court of Arthur. He was knighted by the High King, Guinevere the Queen, girded on his sword. Let's see. Lancelot was the most beloved of Arthur's knights for his defense of his fellows. Again and again in the course of adventures, he was their champion in adversity. We had the round table with the names around. In the years of Arthur's prime, the round table of his company was a sign of unity and perfection. And Lancelot du Lake, his premier knight, sat at the High King's right hand. An interesting shield. Among the enchantments of Morgana Le Fay was a shield emblazoned with the figures of king, queen, and knight. It revealed the tale of Guinevere and Lancelot, but it was many years before the High King understood its meaning. In quiet places hidden from the eyes of the High King's court, Lancelot and Guinevere made lovers' vows, although the words meant dishonor and danger and ruin in the end. Also, there's a picture of the ring here. A ring of gold adorned with his escutcheon was Lancelot's signet. It was given by the Queen. Together as a glorious company, the Knights of the Round Table rode out into the adventures of the Grail, and the Queen wept to see them go. That was the warriors' last time in unity. And of course, the arch rival of Arthur, Mordred, his son. Morgase of Lothian and Orkney was a woman of much appetite and little discretion. In her middle years, she took for a lover Limerick of Wales, son of the man who slew her husband. Gaheris, son of Morgause, found her with Lamoric one night, in a rage ashamed that she should so lightly betray his father's memory. The knight put his mother to the sword. Lamoric died fighting 4 of the sons of Morgause. It was Mordred who gave the death blow, a knife in the back. From an aged stranger, Mordred learned that he was no true son of Lot. The High King was Mordred's father, and he himself was the serpent who would take his father's life. Mordred slew the messenger. Lancelot saw him do it. A dish of apples presented at a royal feast contained poison that murdered an innocent knight. Guinevere the Queen was a poisoner, said the sons of Lothian and Orkney. On her knees, Guinevere pleaded for a knight to defend her innocence in a trial by combat. Bors, cousin of Lancelot du Lake, was the only man willing to stand for her. Let's see. Shades of evil began to close in on the High King of Britain. Morgana Le Fay showed him the intrigues of Guinevere and Lancelot painted on a chamber wall. Lancelot and Guinevere made their last tryst at the Queen's Tower, but Mordred's people lay in wait to prove the lovers' treachery. Harsh pounding on the chamber door and triumphant shouts in the corridor signaled the entrapment of the lovers. Lancelot, unarmored, acted with a warrior's cunning. He let one man only enter and kill him on the spot. See, we're adjusted here. Armored in the dead man's mail, Lancelot slew the warrior who sought his life, all save Mordred, who ran away. Then Lancelot fled from Camelot, but Guinevere would not go. Honor demanded she face the husband whose love she had betrayed. Burning was a punishment for a traitor queen, said Mordred, and saw with satisfaction Guinevere chained to her funeral pyre. You don't hear that much in Arthurian legends. Like a wolf of the mountain, Lancelot attacked the crowd that surrounded Guinevere, the condemned queen. 2 unarmed men died by a swift hand, although he did not know it. They were Gareth and Gaheris of Lothian and Orkney. In the arms of Lancelot, Guinevere fled the fortress of the High King, riding to the shelter of Joyous Guard. And, robed in white and gold, Lancelot surrendered his lover to Arthur, while Gawain watched and thought of vengeance. Gawain. Read about many of his stories in previous volumes of this series. Commanded by Gawain, the High King's army sailed for France in pursuit of Lancelot. Gawain's vengeance, fury at the murder of his brothers, found release in action when he faced his old comrade Lancelot in single combat on the shield of the fortress of Benwick. While Arthur and his company did battle in France, Mordred, his traitor son, claimed the high kingship of Britain and demanded the hand of his father's wife in marriage. Here we go. As he lay dying from his wounds on the embattled shores of Britain, Gawain wept for the woe his anger had wrought. As Arthur and Mordred parleyed on the battlefield, a serpent struck a soldier. He drew his sword, a reflex the world would rue. This is a great picture here. The gleam of steel teased forth by the serpent brought an instant resumption to the battle by the armies of the High King and his sons. Then hundreds died for Arthur's sake, and hundreds more for Mordred's. At day's end, the field was a vast charnel house. Mordred lay pierced by his father's spear. Arthur's life was ebbing, but cut hit by his son's sword, and only 2 companions lived to support the High King as he neared the end. Play Wagner music. Far across the western sea, an island fortress floated, the stronghold of the Old Ones who had woven the fate of the High King. Here. So much glare. With a company from Fairy, Morgana Le Fay sought King Arthur after his last battle and sailed with him to the world of enchantment. Here we have a picture of Excalibur being held by hand in the lake. Of course, that's what was returned, you know. And that is the fall of Camelot. A lot of captions there, not too many side stories and all that. You know, it's kind of a usual setup for their books, but it's fitting, you know, with this one. So yeah, that is the fall of Camelot. Thank you all for watching. You have a nice day.